YouTube, it's the Nitro Nerds here for another edition of RC Nitro for Dummies. And today what we're going to talk about is how to replace a steering servo specifically for an OFNA Hyper 7. When I first purchased this vehicle, one of the things that I heard quite a bit was that it had a very weak steering servo. It's the Habeo H101, and it's a Futaba type brand. Honestly, it's held up pretty well. I really don't have a lot of complaints, so this is merely an upgrade for it. My son Andrew has been on a tear recently, a string of straight A's the entire school year, even going into last school year, so very, very proud of him. And we decided to treat him with a new servo. The servo that I selected is an Airtronics 94851. What intrigued me about this is the torque that it has. And for those that are a bit new to the hobby, what torque means is how strong the servo can move. And this one here, the torque on it is 192 ounces, if you will. So think about it in terms of how many ounces that the servo can turn. The other thing that you want to look for in servos is the speed. And with this right here, the speed on it is 0.19 seconds, and that's how fast the servo can go in 60 degrees. So this servo can go 60 degrees in 0.19 seconds. What I look for most, at least for a steering servo, is the torque that it has. So the very first thing that I noticed when I bought this was that the servo horn on it is the wheel type. And I initially tried to put this servo on, but it would not fit onto here. So really what happened was the stock servo horn that I have would not fit onto the spindle for this new servo. So I tried to then make this servo arm fit onto this servo horn. That wouldn't work. What I ended up having to do is buy another servo horn here to go onto here and then to put on the arm. So hopefully it fits. We'll see. Let's cross our fingers and hope that it fits. So let's get right down to it. The first thing that I recommend you do is don't necessarily try to take this out. Done that before. The best thing that you want to do is just take out the entire assembly here. So the first thing we're going to do is begin by taking off the horn on each of the servos. And as always, when you're doing this, definitely make sure that you put your screws in a place where you won't lose them. So at this point, once you've taken it off, the next thing to do is to take out the receiver here. And from there it's a matter of just determining which one is the steering servo and unplugging it. At this point, you simply unscrew these screws right here, and you'll notice that below there's some housing plates to hold it on, so make sure that you don't lose those as you're taking it off. And then so, at that point, what you do is now you have your servo off. And obviously, if you have one, as long as it's working, you want to hang on to it. We're going to try to put this into the Professor later to improve that steering servo. Now you take the one that you bought, and if you have to, take off the servo horn, because you want to replace that, you simply do that. And then once you have it plugged into you simply give it a quick test, and then you turn off your electronics, because you always want to save your batteries. Now it's a matter of simply putting the new horn on and screwing it in. Once you've got the servo horn on, it's a matter of attaching it. I'm going to spare you guys kind of the gory details of how we do this, because it may take a little bit, but really you just have to get this piece, hold it under there, and then get these screws and screw them in. So let's see if we can get this. First try, it's always a little bit difficult on film to get it. We got that first one, and so get them in like such. Of course, you want to make sure that you get all your screws in there really tight, especially on a basher like this, because the last thing you want are your parts. You get a lot of vibration, and you don't want your parts to become loose at all. Of course, with plastic, you want to be very careful you don't over tighten it, because you'll dig into the plastic, and that's never good. I think that's going to be good right there. Okay, so now we have the servo on. It's a matter of getting it back into its housing here. Okay, and there you go, and once you get the servo compartment back on, what we're ready to do now is put the arm on. As we're doing this, one of the things I wanted to point out is it's very important to make sure you have your wiring right as you're doing it. You definitely want it to kind of go through this groove right here into the receiver housing. Now, simply a matter of taking off So to take that off, you just use a 5.5 nut driver to hold it down. And I think we got it. Off she comes. Important when you put your throttle servo back on that you actually reset it, because as we know, one of the most important things about these cars is that you want to make sure when you turn it on, the carburetor is not open. You learn that lesson once, and only once. So, take a quick peek here. Awesome. The final piece to this, ladies and gentlemen, is simply the part that I hate the absolute worst. I can tear apart engines, I can put servo, I can do pretty much anything to this car that I like. Getting these wires and putting this back in there, I hate it. So I'm going to spare you guys once again, the gory details of that. And there we go. And as mentioned, the important thing is, as you're putting the wiring back in the housing, you really want to make sure that you don't pinch any of the wires. Let's try it again. Awesome. And at this point, I think we're ready to go.